Well, hello there. It's Gerda here, and I'm so happy that you've decided to tune in to the Private Practice Success Podcast today. However, before I talk to you about today's topic, I did want to ask you a really important question, and this is the following. When last did you actually step out of the day-to-day running of your practice long enough to think strategically about where your business is heading? Rather than just surviving another week, rather than just putting out fires the entire time, rather than just managing everybody else's needs, only to get to the end of your week feeling like what you need and what you want actually doesn't matter. When in fact it does, and it should. Because this is what I know, because I've been there, done that, and I see this all the time. The one thing you don't need in your world is more busyness. I'm going to take an educated guess here and say that you need a business breakthrough. And that is exactly why I'm inviting you to join me at the 2026 Private Practice Business Intensive happening in Byron Bay this August. This is a 2-day in-person experience for group allied health practice owners who are ready to stop running on the hamster wheel and start leading their businesses with more clarity, more confidence, more strategy, and really, really importantly, more intention. Across the 2 days, we'll dive into ethical business strategy, leadership, growth, future-proofing your practice, implementation, masterminding, and creating meaningful connections with other like-minded practice owners who truly get private practice. And let's be honest here, most of the times the breakthrough you need only happens when you step away from the practice long enough to finally see that bigger picture. So if you're ready for your next business breakthrough, I would love to facilitate it for you. Head on over to the show notes, grab your ticket for the 2026 Private Practice Business Intensive. I would absolutely love to welcome you there. Now let's get started with today's topic. Well, hello there, spectacular private practice owner. My name is Gerda Muller, and you are listening to the Private Practice Success Podcast, and this is episode number 75. Today I want to talk to you about utilization rates. Now, how did I land upon this topic? Well, cast your mind back to episode number 71. So in that episode, we spoke about the difference between contributions to operating expenses and profit, and why understanding that difference matters. Now, if you've not listened to that one, it's really important one to go and listen to. Well, between me and you, each and every episode is important for you to listen to if you are a group practice owner. You cannot miss even one episode, irrespective of how big your practice is, whether you're level 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. Okay? And don't be one of those level 5 practice owners that goes, oh, I'm big, I know all these things. I can tell you now because I've learned this the hard way as a twice level 5 practice owner. Like I've got 2 locations at level 5. You can still learn something, because I wouldn't be talking about it if you don't know it. And it's sometimes my level 5 people, and I love you so much, but it's sometimes you that are stifling your own growth because you think you know it all. I'm sorry that I'm just like getting in there with the tough love, but I've been seeing this a lot lately. Never get too big for your boots in business. Even if you've been in business freaking 20 years like I have, a lot of the times we need to go back to basics for the next level of growth. So let me get off my little soapbox. And, I'm a parent and I'm a clinical psychologist. I know the importance of tough love, so please accept it in the way that it is meant. And if you are a baby group practice, and that's not my word, that's how when I talk to people, they refer to themselves when they're like level 1, just about to go into group practice or just have 1 or 2 clinicians. All of this stuff applies. And every time, irrespective of your size of business, you're going to be listening to these episodes and these topics of conversation through a different filter. So even if you've listened to an episode a year ago and you're going to listen to it again today, you're going to get something different from it. I know this because I listen to podcast episodes myself. I go back and listen to my own podcast and I go, hey, are we still doing this? Hey, do we still have our finger on the pulse when it comes to this topic? Let me speak to Ash about this in our meeting on Monday. Anyway, but I digress. As I was saying, I did episode 71, really highlighting the difference between those two topics. And it really got me thinking, what other topics, or not really topics, what other terms or concepts are there within the industry and within our private practice community that I know that people often confuse or where they have different understandings of it? And it went ping in my brain, utilization rates, because I have often heard people talk about it. I've seen people in conversations and Facebook groups around it, and I go, people have got different understandings of what a utilization rate is. And I often find that it is different based on their allied health discipline. So I thought, hang on, I'm going to do a podcast episode on this to really bring this to the fore so that you can determine what is your definition of utilization rates, and also for you to understand then when you talk to other people, maybe even to your own team, they might be coming with a different understanding and or definition of utilization rates. And it's very often the biggest challenges in business is when there's miscommunication or misunderstandings. So it's really an easy thing to fix if we actually get on the same page as to what does this term actually mean. So that is what we're going to be talking about today. Now, before we get stuck into this topic, I really want you to reflect on right now, what is your understanding of utilization rates? If I had to ask you, tell me, how do you define utilization rates within your business? What would you say? If I went to one of your admin team members or to one of your clinician team members and I asked them, what is the definition of utilization rates within your business? Or what do you think is the definition of utilization rates within the allied health industry? What would they tell me? And you might need to pause this and really think about this for a moment, because this is really important. Would they tell me the exact same thing? Would they be on the same page than you? Would they even know that there is such a thing, yes or no? The answers to all of these reflective questions will be giving you a lot of information around where your business is at. And it might even inform the situation that you might be finding yourself in. So I honestly, when you engage with my podcast, I want this to really be helpful. I don't want my podcast to be something that you listen to in the one ear, you go, yeah, that sounds great, and then out the other ear. No. Okay, that's not how this works. I want my podcast to be of value. So honestly, reflect on it. Press pause and really give yourself, even if it's 10 seconds, to just go, what's the answer to this question within my business? I think for many of us, when we hear the words utilization rates, it sounds like something that is a key performance indicator, that it probably sits somewhere in somebody's job description as a KPI, like this is something that needs to be achieved or needs to be done. Now, key performance indicators, aka KPIs, are really important. It is incredibly important for you to know what is those key performance indicators within your business. And if you've been a long time listener, you would know that I always like to start big picture with you. I like to give you context. I'm not somebody that's going to give you one little piece of the puzzle and not tell you what the overall image is all about, because it's going to be really tricky to build that puzzle if you only have a few little pieces. So I always like to paint the bigger picture for you, which is why I'm talking about KPIs, because I think in a lot of our brains, it's like utilization rate, probably that's a KPI, right, Gerda? And if you're thinking that, you're probably thinking the same as 99% of other people out there in the industry. Now, as I said, KPI is incredibly important, and I can give you a freaking laundry list as long as my two arms of potential KPIs that you can set for yourself and for your respective teams within your business. And sometimes what I find is practice owners have got too many freaking KPIs. They try and do too much at the one time, and they just overwhelm themselves and their team. And if you were to ask me, well, Gerda, what is the main KPIs that I should have for the bare minimum, I can tell you there's 3 for your admin team, there's 3 for your clinician team, and guess what? There's 4 for you as the business owner. You've got the most KPIs. You might be top dog, but you've got the most KPIs because ultimately the buck stops with you. Now, that being said, that's a total of 10 KPIs, which is my essential, let's call it my KPI kit, if I was forced to list essential KPIs that you can't live without. Now, I want to say that those 10 KPIs is not just team, clinician, and business owner KPIs. Ultimately, KPIs all linked together. And as a whole team, we all play a part in helping and supporting one another to achieve our individual and team KPIs because it's all interlinked. As a team within an allied health business, we're not operating in isolation. And if you are at a practice where it feels that way, that's a little red flag. And I'm not saying resign and move on. Go and talk to your practice owner. Go and talk to your line manager, because we need to start talking about these things rather than just going elsewhere. You should never be working in isolation to achieve your KPIs. Now, that being said, you, whether you're an admin team member, clinical team member, or the practice owner, there's going to be those KPIs that ultimately sits with you, that belongs to you, and that you are first and foremost responsible for. And interesting thing, utilization rates is not on that list. Quick side note, if you are a group practice owner, please know that it is my mission to help you go from overwhelmed, overworked, and most probably underpaid to fully empowered and financially thriving. Helping you build a practice you can't stop smiling about is more than just a tagline in my world. It is what I do. So if you know that you want more from your business, if you know that you deserve more from your business, then today is the day I invite you to reach out. In the show notes, you will find a link to a super short triage form. Pop in your details. I will personally go through your responses and will get back to you ASAP to let you know how I can help. And if I can't, I'll point you in the right direction. Don't put your dreams on the back burner any longer. The sooner you start, the sooner I can help you get there. Now back to the episode. Yep, utilization rate is not on my list of essential KPIs. That does not mean it's not important. And I'm hoping that by the end of this, it will start to make sense for you why it's actually not on there. Okay, so let's talk and let's define utilization rates. As I said at the start, I find that there's different definitions of it. And anecdotally, I have found that the difference in definition is generally between the psychology, mental health side of allied health versus what I would call the physical therapies side of allied health. And I find that there's generally a difference between how those two sides of allied health define it. And obviously, my business and my background and on-the-ground experience is predominantly within the psychology and mental health side of allied health. I am working more and more also with particularly occupational therapists, quite a lot of them actually, speech pathologists, social workers, dietitians, and more also physios, which is why I've become more and more aware of the difference in how utilization rates is defined across the allied health industry. Now, again, if you do it differently at your practice, even maybe there's a third way, that's perfectly fine. I'm just highlighting to you so you can become aware of the fact that there is these differences and how this could potentially be impacting you, your business, and your team. And it's been interesting because I often hear the physical therapy side of allied health talk about the percentages attached to it. And when I heard it the first time, I went, this does not make freaking sense to me. And that's when I went down the rabbit hole of utilization rates. So, all right, let's talk about 2 examples here. So in, let's say, the physio world, and if you're a physiotherapist and you go, that's not how we do it, Gerda, perfectly fine. Remember, I said anecdotally as a general rule. So a lot of physios and other physical therapies, I'm not picking here on the physiotherapists. I love the physiotherapists. I've worked with quite a few of them by now. But in the physical therapies world, let me say that, utilization rate is generally determined as follows. So they would go, the business owner has said that in an average working week that has 38 working hours in, that the therapist needs to do, and I'm just using round numbers here to make my maths easy, needs to do 25 billable hours. And if you have seen 15 clients within those 25 required billable hours, that means that you have a utilization rate of 60%. If you saw 20 clients in those 25 billable hours, you would have an 80% utilization rate. And if you had 25 appointments, out of 25 appointments, you would have 100% utilization rate. And it's when I would hear people talk about 80% utilization rate, 100% utilization rate, that I would go, how the hell are you doing this? Your people should not be billing 80% or 100% of the time. And then I realized, oh no, we're defining it differently. Because in the mental health psychology side of the industry, we look at it differently. And this is where the difference comes in. Because in our side of the industry, it's actually not a utilization rate. Well, at least not the way that I look at it. It's not a utilization target even. It is a utilization requirement. And the way that we look at it is one set consistent percentage. So if my clinicians are full-time employed, which is 38 hours in a working week, according to our ward, I know our utilization requirement for a full-time equivalent clinician is 63.1%. I know, it's very specific. So it's a requirement. It's a very important word. Language is very important in business. We require any full-time equivalent clinician to deliver a minimum of 24 billable hours in their work week. The 24 divided by 38, which is the working hours in the full-time equivalent work week, is 63.1%. So that is our utilization requirement. It's not a rate. That doesn't mean that we don't look at are people actually meeting this requirement. We most certainly do. And we do that through our productivity reports. So that's really in terms of what level of productivity is our people operating at. I don't particularly like the word utilization because it sounds like I'm using my team, which they're getting paid for, right? So I look at it as our productivity reports that we look at. So as I said earlier, utilization rate is not on my KPI essentials list because it just has to happen. It's a requirement. So if you get employed, this is what you need to do. Those are the amount of billable appointments within your diary that that is opened up when you get started. And I know that if the admin team meets those essential 3 KPIs that's on the list, I know if the clinical team meets their 3 essential KPIs that's on the list, and if as the business owner I meet my 4 essential KPIs, that we will automatically meet the utilization requirement. And it would be easy. And 63.1% is a minimum number. People can do more, but they can't do less, because if they do less, we can't pay the bills. But also, we want to look after our team, particularly in mental health. It is a high burnout career that people enter, not only in mental health, but I think allied health in general, because we are helpers. And there's a lot of emotional work within our jobs on a day-to-day basis, even if you are a physio, even if you are a podiatrist, even if you are insert whatever type of allied health professional you are, there is going to be emotions attached to it, because health, whether it's physical or mental, is important to people. And when your health is not what it should be, there's going to be an emotional component to it. So we most certainly need to be aware of the impact on our team. And of course, more so when you work in the mental health corner of allied health. So for us at my practice, and also for all the psychology practices and mental health practices that I work with, when we say 63.1% utilization requirement, I can set that requirement really feeling good about it, knowing that I think that is a great balance between going, we are a professional service business, we get paid when we provide a service. So we have to do the work. We don't get government funding. There's no, NGO behind us or government coffers. Every freaking dollar we spend, we need to earn. So it's like, you can't deny the fact that you need to do billable work. If you don't want to do it, you shouldn't be in the industry. So we have to do the billable work. But again, like I said, it's really well balanced, because there is then 14 hours of non-billable work time. And I think that is really generous if you think about it. So if as a business owner, I'm paying somebody for 38 hours in their week, they're doing 24 billable hours, giving them 14 hours. That's almost 2 days for non-billable work. Now, good luck finding another professional services firm that will allow their billing team to do 2 days of non-billable work. It will give the freaking lawyers, engineers, architects, and all the other professional service business owners a heart attack to think that their team is allowed to do 2 days worth of non-billable work. Now, their work is different to ours. They have their own stresses. I can tell you those industries aren't stress-free. It's just a different type of stress to what we have. But we are allied health, and I'm okay giving my team 2 days of non-billable client work as long as they meet the utilization requirement. Then it's fine, right? Because there's a lot of other stuff and levers that we can pull in order to ensure that we still achieve the margins required to allow the team to have 2 days of non-billable work, so that they can look after themselves, so that they can have non-face-to-face time, so that they can have that downtime from billable work while still being productive, so that they don't burn out, so that they keep on having the joy that's going to keep them within the industry. Because if our team burns out, how are we going to help people? So it's really about that balance that needs to be achieved. Let's summarize. I want you to think about and reflect on what is your current definition of utilization rates. Should you even call it utilization rates? Do you and your team know what the utilization requirement is within your practice? Are your team meeting that requirement? If not, how far off are they? What are their actual productivity like? What is contributing to them not getting them? How is that impacting your business, your cash flow, your ability to sleep at night? Having a clear utilization requirement that looks after the business as well as the team is incredibly important. This is that thing that's going to sustain your business and your team over the long term. So you need to know what that number is. Like I said, at my practice, it's 63.1%. And remember, I said language is important. That is a minimum. People can do more, but they shouldn't be doing less. If they are, you need to be tracking productivity rates. You need to know what that is. You need to know why is it the way it is. What other KPI isn't being met by which team that might be contributing to it. Because it's not just the fault of the clinician if they're not getting to that number. Ultimately, each and every person within the business contributes to one another's KPIs, contributes to achieving that utilization requirement. So what is happening? What is allowing your business right now to achieve it if you're getting there? Because if you can tell me, yes, Gerda, we are smashing it week in, week out, we are achieving our utilization requirement, you need to ask yourself why. What is in place allowing me to get there? Because unfortunately in business, when you let your eye off the ball, that's when the ball falls. Have you put in measures, systems, processes, procedures to ensure that it continues to happen into the future? To ensure that if there's a deviation of it, that it can get picked up and immediately rectified. And if you're not meeting your utilization requirement, what's going wrong? What are you not seeing? What are you not doing? What do you need to put in place in order to make sure that you get there week in, week out? That's the stuff that helps you sleep at night, you and your team. That creates a sustainable business, that creates that sense of security that irrespective of what's happening in the world, what's happening in our industry, that we're going to be okay. And that is how team members stick around instead of panicking and leaving. And we don't want that. Remember, what you want right now in the current state of the industry and the world is stability. Stability and sustainability, and knowing your utilization requirement and what you're doing to ensure that your team meets it week in and week out is absolutely essential. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. I know that today's episode was shorter than my usual episodes, but this was a very specific topic of conversation. It's this one term that I really wanted to delve into today because I know that this will make a big difference to you in your practice. Thank you so very much for tuning in, for listening and engaging in this conversation. And remember that I am here to help you build a practice you can't stop smiling about.